Welcome to my presentation on creating agency, connection, and SEL benefits for teen students through community-based art education. So, my initial art education troublings were centered on apathy and boredom in the classroom, but through my studies have morphed towards a more postmodern mentorship style. As an elder with decades of experience, I believed I truly held a valuable key for students. However, after engaging with Ichukiakak's et al.'s work on cultural humility and community accountability, I now recognize that positioned as an outsider arriving to help, I had not yet made it a priority to consider what the community itself, my teenage students, actually valued. As a white, middle class, cisgendered settler elder, the art education I organized consisted largely of sanitized Canadian European frameworks structured around compliance. I created learning opportunities that satisfied the ministry, met parental expectations, and broader societal norms. However, I now see that the classroom environment did not really meet many of this community's needs. As discussed in Downey's Creating Good Enough Containers in 2019, I also had not sufficiently considered my students' identity development alongside their artistic journey. From my classroom experience, students often value sharing their experiences with peers and receiving genuine interest from one another's projects. And these interactions foster a sense of community that's often lacking in institutional environments. My programming, therefore, should cultivate desire for peer connection, identity exploration, and opportunities for them to exercise their emerging agency. My aim, or our aim, should be a classroom that functions as a collaborative community of artists in which students identify their strengths, establish shared and individual goals, and determine how best to share their own products and processes with the audiences meaningful to them. So, in seeking better ways to understand my students' interests and foster connection through community-based art practices, I discovered a relevant example from 2019. In their article, Free Play in Teens, A Path to SEL Development, Tatgenhort, Solomon, and Finch, 2019, relate how a small Texas library successfully supported teenage SEL learning and thereby create connection and community through an intergenerational art club. As the West Bank Public Library shifted towards programs created by the community members themselves, a young adult book club began to emerge. Initially, attendance was low for many months, needing to pair its only participant, young Marissa, with various friendly library staff. But over time, participation increased, and tweens began to explore beyond their own interests and preferences. They listened, they discussed differences of opinions, they were exposed to a wider array of genres. As this familiarity grew, the group developed a deeper connection through shared activities. They bonded over snacking, laughing, singing, and even at times crying. So these experiences provided a respite from their demanding schedules and enabled students to connect with one another and explore interests on their own terms. Echoing Gray's 2014 observations that youth learn to take control of their own lives through opportunities to make their own decisions, see from each other's experiences, negotiate, control emotions, contend with impulses, navigate disagreements, and make friends. During this period, area high schools were increasingly tasked with fostering students' SEL. Tatgenhort et al. Noted that many competencies required by children to successfully deal with emotional turmoil develop primarily through free play, rather than highly structured environments. Clubs, therefore, offer low stress, high agency activities in contrast to formal schooling. Observing young Marissa's success in finding connection and agency within the YA book club, the West Bank Library initiated teen drop-in volunteer roles in conjunction with a young artist program. Tatgenhort et al. Noted that this unique setting provided more relaxed scheduling, reduced adult authority, a mix of youth from kindergarten up to graduation age, and a stimulus-rich environment that allowed all participants to practice taking control of their own lives. Within the weekly open-ended youth art sessions, the teens assisted with setup and facilitation, but more importantly, they modeled free play and joined in if invited. Here, quality experiences and connection were the goal. The teens were able to support, model, engage, imagine, and nurture their young counterparts in learning, compromising, and skill development. Subsequently, connections developed between the youth that continued to volunteer over the course of the program. Tatgenhort et al. Attributed the program's success to flexible timeframes, minimal rules, connection to others, playfulness, and a chance to reflect on their own childhood. This created a community of family. This relates to my own experiences growing up in a rural community during the much less structured 80s. As a teen, I assisted in coaching younger skaters, following my own lessons. I was entrusted to connect with youngsters, designing playful activities that embedded skills. To practice power, I challenged my all-boy group to race across the width of the rink and demonstrate the most outrageous crash out they could muster. We young coaches collaborated. We improved our advisory skills, cataloged the assets of our fledgling community, and co-created learning and connection environments for everybody on the ice. As young adults, we relished our agency, we bonded over our experiences, and likely learned as much, if not more, than those we were teaching. Examining both the Westlake Library program and my own experiences as a young coach highlights the importance of collaboration, relational accountability, and a shared authorship. Reframing participants as equal contributors created transformative reciprocal learning experiences, mirroring Ichukiakak's 2023 collective community action during a Nalukatatak or blanket toss. Teens took the lead where necessary. They supported each other and at times acted as followers of the 5-year-olds. This give and take echoes the adage that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Gandhi. So what will I take forward from this example? 1, moving forward requires embracing uncertainty as a generative space rather than professional risk. 2, I must become more of a facilitator of relational learning, as authentic art education can emerge from shared acts of care, creation, and service between participants. And 3, embracing the shift asked me to relinquish some control and to step into a more humble and responsive role, yet it offers the possibility of a classroom grounded in trust, reciprocity, and collective growth. Therefore, the significance of the West Bank program lies not in the specific activities themselves, but in the conditions it created. The significance is not just what the students did, but how the overall environment was designed. by providing low structure, high agency environments with minimal adult control, flexible timeframes, and interage collaboration. The program allowed SEL leadership and community relationships to emerge organically rather than trying to be directly taught. So now I find myself wondering, and perhaps you will contribute your thoughts. What activities, responsibilities, or opportunities have you provided for students in order for them to affect or positively impact their own community? In what surprising ways have students taken charge of the reins in which led to a positive outcome in their community? And in what ways have students worked to build ongoing relationships rather than just complete one-time service projects? I'm excited to continue with my studies and myself envision moving on to creating such a program in my own school, pairing volunteers from my art classes with students from junior highs, grade 5 to 7, for a day of free play and art, community building, collaboration, and the emergence of agency. I'd like to do this 1 or 2 times, hopefully before the year lets out, and if not, start planning for next year. I'm excited to incorporate this into my own teaching practice and see where it will go. Thank you for listening.